Oke, selamat sore, good afternoon. Welcome back to our cybersecurity course. I believe today will be our sixth class. Jadi ini pertemuan kita yang ke-6. As we recall, kalau kita lihat di pertemuan pertama, in our first class, we discussed about how an IP package coming through layer 2 and also layer 3. We use packet tracer for this simulation to describe about how the MAC address and also the IP address change when it goes through a switch and also when it goes through a router. And then the second class we discussed about the web server and also the now we discuss about web server. We just discussed about web server. Kita bahas tentang web server and how it interact with HTTP and also how the HTTPS works and also how to use DNS, domain name service. Jadi di pertemuan kedua yang dulu kita bahas tentang bagaimana cara kerja HTTP, HTTPS dan juga DNS. Kemudian kita juga bahas tentang in our third class we discuss about firewall, including the first generation of firewall, a static rule of firewall. So we need to describe or we need to distinguish between outgoing rule with the incoming rule. Jadi di generasi pertama firewall kita perlu membuat rule untuk paket outgoing dan juga untuk paket incoming. Tapi di generasi kedua, kita hanya perlu mendescribe, we need to describe in next generation, in firewall, the second generation firewall, you only need to describe the rule for outgoing packets. So after that, the firewall will, remember about that outgoing traffic. And then when the response comes, the firewall will allow that packet. So, jadi di generasi kedua firewall, kita hanya perlu membuat rule untuk outgoing paket. Sementara untuk incoming-nya, dia berdasarkan catatan pada saat paket tersebut keluar. Jadi ada router, firewall, di sini ada client, dan di sini ada servernya. Yang kita bikin di generasi kedua adalah outgoing-nya saja. Jadi pada saat klien mengirimkan request ke server, maka request tersebut akan dicatat di firewall, sehingga respon dari server, dia akan dicek, oh, ini respon dari request yang tadi, sehingga dia akan langsung di-allow. Jadi tidak perlu membuat rule untuk incoming package. Oke. That's for second generation firewall. And for the third generation firewall, is similar like the second generation, but we can open up to the application data. Jadi di generasi ketiga atau banyak menyebut sebagai next generation firewall, di generasi ketiga firewall, kita bisa membuka informasinya sampai ke level aplikasi data. Jadi di layar aplikasi kita bisa membuka datanya, data apa ini? So what it's all about. So because we can open the data, we can make sure that the data is dangerous or not. Jadi karena kita bisa membuka sampai ke level aplikasi, kita bisa mendeteksi apakah data tersebut berbahaya. For example, is it malware or not? Or is it virus? Or is it Trojan or worm? Atau dia adalah data yang legit. Itu yang bisa dilakukan oleh next generation firewall. Nah, semakin ke atas, dari generasi pertama, generasi kedua ke generasi ketiga, dia semakin kompleks ke atas itu. So, it become more complex when we are going up to the generation. So, the first generation firewall is the most simple firewall. And the next generation firewall, which is in this case is the third generation firewall, is the most complex firewall. Why? Because we need a very fast machine to open the data. Remember, we have megabytes of data or even gigabytes of data in a second. So in 1 second, we have to open hundreds of megabytes of data. So that means we need a very, very fast machine if we want to dedicate that machine to become next generation firewall. Jadi untuk bisa membuat next generation firewall, kita membutuhkan sebuah mesin yang sangat luar biasa cepat. Karena dengan kecepatan data yang datang adalah ratusan megabytes atau ratusan megabit per second, berarti kita membutuhkan kecepatan yang bisa memproses data sampai ratusan megabyte data dalam 1 detik. Dia harus buka, dicek, benar apa, is it malware or not? If it is not malware, then close it again, and then send it through. That's for the firewall. And then for the fourth class, we discussed about proxy and also the VPN, and how we describe that proxy can encapsulate or hide the IP address of the client. Because on the server point of view, the one that access the server is the proxy itself, not the client. Jadi kalau kita menggunakan proxy, dari sudut pandang server, yang mengakses server tersebut bukan klien, tapi dia adalah server. Kita kemarin melihat bahwa IP address yang muncul di server adalah IP address-nya proxy, bukan IP address-nya klien. Kemudian VPN itu menambah enkripsi. So by using VPN, we give more security on the channel because proxy does not do the encryption. Because it's not concerned about the security, it's just concerned about how to make the bandwidth of the internet more efficient. So if we want to make it secure, then we can use the VPN. We can combine VPN also proxy. So only VPN user can access the proxy. We will describe about that on the fourth class. Dan di pertemuan kelima, kita bahas tentang bandwidth management. Bagaimana kita membuat bandwidth management traffic server dalam hal ini di level OS dengan menggunakan dummy net dan juga di level aplikasi dengan menggunakan proxy script. So last week we discussed about bandwidth management, and in this case we only use the traffic server. Remember about the difference between traffic server and also bandwidth management. In traffic server, we will not allow a traffic or bandwidth sharing. So if a pipe is empty, then it will be empty. That's traffic server. But if it is a bandwidth management, if a pipe is empty, then another pipe will use that pipe. Jadi perbedaan antara bandwidth management dengan traffic server adalah di traffic server tidak ada bandwidth sharing atau sharing pipa. Oke. Nah, di minggu lalu kita bahas tentang pipa untuk bandwidth management di level OS, dan kita memperkenalkan juga bucket atau ember di level aplikasi. So in the operating system level, we use pipe to create the traffic server, but on the application layer, we use bucket to create the traffic server. Okay, so now today we're going to discuss about next generation firewall, and in this case we're going to use pfSense. pfSense is actually a package that combine router, FreeBSD operating system, and also web server, firewall. We can also use proxy and also VPN, and we can also use the bandwidth management. So it's like everything come in one package. That's what we call next generation firewall. or some people we call it UTM, Unified Threat Management, because everything will be in one machine. Okay, now before we start with the today's lesson, let's start with the last week quiz. Okay, review the quiz. Now, question number 1. One benefit of using vendor management in cybersecurity defense is salah satu keuntungan atau kelebihan dari menggunakan vendor management dari pertahanan cybersecurity adalah apakah is it to find who the attacker is? No. We cannot use vendor management to find who is the attacker. To reverse attack the attacker, jadi kita ingin menyerang balik penyerangnya, tidak bisa. That's not the purpose of vendor management. To limit the traffic from attacker, now this is the one. So the purpose of vendor management in cybersecurity defense is to limit the traffic from the attacker. So the attacker will understand that I'm still attacking, because usually the attacker will use a bot, a robot. As long as the robot will have access to the server, oh, I'm still attacking. Saya masih menyerang nih, saya masih serang. Jadi attacker atau robotnya akan tetap terus menyerang. Dia tidak akan melapor kepada attackernya, we have been rejected by the server. Because if the robot is going to be rejected by the server, then the attacker will try to find another way to attack our server. For example, they can change the IP address to attack our server. So, ketimbang kita mereject paket dari penyerang, kita bisa mengurangi pipa dari serangan tersebut. Sehingga penyerangnya yang biasa menggunakan robot akan tetap menyerang sepanjang dia masih bisa connect sama servernya. Meskipun bandwidth-nya sudah kita sangat perkecil. Hal ini akan menyebabkan robot tidak akan lapor kepada penyerang, "Boss, we are still attacking." Jadi, karena robot tidak melaporkan, maka robot akan tetap jalan terus, dan attackernya akan tidak concern terhadap penyerangan tadi. But, however, if we reject the attack, then the robot will respond that, "Boss, we have been rejected by the server." Karena kita sudah di-reject, maka attacker akan mencoba untuk mencari cara lain untuk menyerang. Misalnya dengan mengganti IP address-nya. Jadi, the purpose of vendor management in cybersecurity defense is to limit the traffic from attacker, not to reject, but only to limit the traffic from attacker. Okay. Now, second question. One type of bandwidth management that does not do pipe sharing is called traffic shaper. So traffic shaper is a type of bandwidth management. Traffic shaper does not do pipe sharing. This is the pipe for boss. This is the pipe for middle management. This is the pipe for staff, like that. Okay. Question number 3. In bandwidth management, we can assign each pipe to. Remember about last week discussion. Each pipe, suatu pipa, itu akan kita assign ke grup. Nanti dari grup tersebut, kita bisa mengatur untuk setiap usernya. So in bandwidth management, we can assign each pipe. We assign each pipe to a group. So this is the pipe for students, all students. This is the pipe for management, all management. How about I'm a management and I want to have bigger bandwidth than the other middle management. No, you cannot do that because the pipe will be assigned to a group, not to individual user. Okay. Okay. Question number 4. Which one is not a scheduling algorithm in bandwidth management? Okay. You can check it in here. Bandwidth management. Okay, this is the scheduling algorithm. We have weighted fair queuing, WFQ. So this is a scheduling algorithm. And then we also have the hierarchical fair service curve, HFSC. No, but oh yeah, this one, hierarchical fair service curve. So this one is also a scheduling algorithm. And then weighted round robin. Yes, we have weighted round robin. And then CBQ, class-based queuing. This one, class-based queuing, CBQ. So the answer is TBF, token bucket filter. Because token bucket is not a scheduling algorithm, it's a traffic shaping, it's a bucket. We have several types of bucket. First one is token bucket. Second one is the leaky bucket. Okay. So TBF or token bucket filter is not a scheduling algorithm. It's a filter. Okay, last question. Bandwidth management works at which OSI layer? It actually works on the layer 3. Because it depends on the IP address of the user. Remember when we want to assign a pipe to a group of server, that group of server can be identified by using the IP address. Okay. So bandwidth management works at layer 3 or IP layer. Okay, now let's move on to today's discussion, which is the next generation firewall. Okay, I haven't described the quiz for today. So after this, I'm going to create a quiz, and then you still have like 6 hours to do the quiz. It's a simple quiz, but maybe only 3 questions because this is only the basic of pfSense. Okay, now pfSense. First, you can visit the pfsense.org in here, and then click the download, and then select image to download. The latest version is 260, and then the architecture is probably you want to use this 64-bit or AMD, and then you can either use the USB installer, but we prefer to use the DVD image installer. And then you can download from Singapore, the closest one from our country. And then download, then you will get the, like, I believe you will need like 420 megabytes. But you don't have to download this. You only need to put it in your mind that pfSense is just a package that bundling all the bandwidth, all these features that we already discussed earlier. Bandwidth management, it's inside the pfSense. Proxy and VPN, all of them inside the VPN. Firewall, yes, it's already available at pfSense. Web server, yes. Mail server, yes. Everything will be put inside the pfSense. So it's not mandatory for you to download this image because it's quite big, 400 megabytes. But if you want, then you can do it. But it will out of your mid-exam. Because in your mid-exam, for the project number 1, you're going to do using the FreeBSD server, FreeBSD router, and also the Windows 98. Or if you prefer, you can use your own operating system. Doesn't matter, because in project number 1 and also project number 2, you are required to submit your packet capture, your PCAP file. Okay. Whatever you use for the operating system, the PCAP will be still the same. Now, back to our pfSense. So you can download the pfSense if you want. Then you can create it using the virtual machine. We're going to discuss about how to install the pfSense, but it's really straightforward. Like this, the pfSense, you're going to need, just like the router, you're going to need 2 network cards. The first one is for the host only adapter, and the second one is for the bridge adapter. Similar like the router here. We have 2 network adapter. The first one is for the host only adapter, and the second one is for the bridge adapter. Okay. So remember, in pfSense we need at least 2. We need at least 2 network cards. One is for the intranet LAN, and one is for the internet or WAN. Remember about our previous topology. So we have in here client, and the client has the IP address of 192.168.56.112. Jadi di pfSense dia akan di setup sebagai router karena dia berada di antara klien dan server. Karena dia menjadi router, maka pfSense membutuhkan 2 buah network card. Satu sebagai host only untuk bisa berkomunikasi dengan klien, dan satu lagi sebagai bridge untuk bisa berkomunikasi dengan server. Dan kita tetap akan menggunakan topologi yang sama, yaitu klien has an IP address of 56.112, and then this is the pfSense, and the IP address is 192.168.56.113. And for the WAN, we're going to use 192.168.100. And then this is the server. 192.168.101. Okay, so we're going to replace the router by using the pfSense. Okay, before we start using pfSense, actually, besides pfSense, we also have something that we call OPNsense. Well, which one is better? Well, it actually depends, because some people prefer using the pfSense, and other people prefer to use the OPNsense. Well, actually, there is a history between them. Actually, OPNsense is a branch from pfSense. So when the pfSense tried to, well, restrict or limit the usage of the how we can use as a user, how can we use the PFSense, then some people from the PFSense try to create a new branch. They call it OPN Sense. Similar, like PFSense, it's based on the FreeBSD, and everything that's inside the PFSense is also include the OPN Sense. They have bandwidth management, they have proxy, VPN, firewall, etc. Okay, but in this class we're going to use the PFSense just because from the history purposes. Now, let's try to start our PFSense, but before that, we're going to use the Ubuntu desktop. I believe this is Ubuntu 16.04. Is a quite old Ubuntu, but it's quite big actually. So I'm not going to share it with you, but you can download and install it by yourself. It's around 2.4 gigabytes for the installer itself. But okay, I think I'm going to share this Ubuntu desktop in the Google Drive. Jadi sebenarnya kita tetap akan membutuhkan ini VM ini untuk kuliah setelah UTS. So the class after the mid exam, you're going to use this virtual machine because it has Python and also Scapy. But if you want to create your own Ubuntu desktop, then it's up to you because everything is the same. Okay. So we're not going to use the Windows 98 because the Windows 98 is just for test connection. The display is very hideous, so we're not going to use the Windows 98. Wait. And laptop is become very hot. So I need to off. Now, this is our desktop. This is for to become the client, and this client let's say it has the automatic DHCP. The DNS is 101. And then let's check out the IP config. The IF config is 56109. Okay. Now it's trying to start the PFSense. Oke, mohon maaf, sepertinya saya harus mematikan kamera saya karena laptop saya sudah terlalu panas. So please accept my apology. I need to turn off my camera because laptop is very hot. Very sorry about this. Okay. Wow. How come it's very hot? Okay, still waiting for the PFSense to start. Oke, ini adalah tampilan dari pfSense, dari command line. Jadi di sini kita bisa melihat dia menggunakan FreeBSD. This is pfSense 252. It's a little bit old, but it's only like 6 months away, 6 months old from now. And then we also have the several menu, logout, and then assign interface, set interface IP address, and reset web configurator password, reset to factory default, reboot, hold, etc. None of this will set up or will configure the next generation firewall, because it's on this menu is to is for setting up the operating system level, not on the application level. If we want to configure the application level, then we need to use the web configurator. As we can see in here, we have two network cards. The first one is EM0. We assign EM0 for LAN with the IP address. It's a static IP address of 192.168.56.113. Jadi di pfSense kita punya dua buah network card. Yang pertama adalah EM0, kita assign sebagai LAN. Jadi untuk masuk ke berhubungan dengan klien. Dan kita berikan IP address-nya adalah 192.168.56.113. Ini untuk EM0. Sementara untuk EM1, kita assign dengan IP address 1.100. Oke. Nah, itu berarti kalau kita ingin masuk ke web configurator, so that means if we want to access the web configurator, we need to access to this IP address. But it will be only allowed from client. We cannot access the web configurator from the outside. So we cannot access the web configurator from the server, because we think that this one is internet. Everything is on the internet, a good guy and also the bad guy. So that's why we cannot allow access to web configurator from one, because it's not secure. Lots of bad people out there. Jadi untuk bisa membuka web configurator, kita hanya bisa melakukan dari klien atau dari sisi LAN. Kita tidak bisa mengakses web configurator dari server atau dari luar. Karena kita menganggap ini adalah outside world atau one. Dan kita beranggapan bahwa semua yang ada di luar itu berpotensi berbahaya. Jadi kita akan membuatnya menjadi hanya boleh diakses oleh klien dari LAN. Nah, berarti LAN, maaf, EM0 adalah LAN dan EM1 adalah WAN dengan IP address ini untuk WAN-nya. Berarti kita akan mengakses dari klien ke IP address ini. Kita coba sekarang. Buka dengan menggunakan Firefox. Oke, kita coba 192.168.56.113. Oke, kita sudah ditampilkan pfSense. Defaultnya username adalah admin and the password is pfSense. And then sign in. Waiting, and it says that in here, successful login for user admin from this IP address. Okay, first it will say that you need to accept this the EULA and user license agreement. So pfSense is an open source and distributed under the FSC 2.0 license. However, no commercial distribution of ESF and or Netcase software is allowed without the prior written consent of it. Jadi kita boleh pakai secara free sepanjang kita tidak menggunakannya, tidak menjualnya kembali, jadi tidak menggunakannya secara komersial. Jadi kita nggak boleh menjual, saya mau menjual pfSense, tidak boleh, tapi kita bisa menjual jasa untuk instalasi pfSense. Set. Oke. Dan ini adalah tampilan awal dari pfSense. Yang menjelaskan tentang nama dari sistemnya, pfSense home.arpa, dan user adalah admin dari 56109. Jadi user yang ada di Ubuntu ini. Kemudian BIOS-nya adalah dari Innotech dan versi VirtualBox, bla bla bla. Kemudian versi 252 menggunakan FreeBSD 12.2, ini lumayan baru 12.2 itu. Kemudian CPU-nya adalah AMD Ryzen itu. CPU dari laptop saya. Kemudian hardware crypto tidak ada. Dan uptime-nya baru nyala 9 menit, 57 detik. Dan DNS server masih menggunakan localhost, belum di-set ke server. Dan di situ juga bisa melihat CPU usage dan memory usage. Jadi ada beberapa tugas akhir, so there are several undergraduate thesis. They try to measure the performance of pfSense compared to OPNsense for several applications. For example, I want to install Moodle as the server, and then I'm going to use pfSense to maybe limit the bandwidth or maybe to create the secondary system, for example, like that, and then try to measure the performance. Okay. And then we have two network cards in this pfSense. One is assigned as LAN, which has the IP address of 56113, and then the other one is for one wide area network with the IP address of 192.168.1.100. Okay. So this is the system information where the pfSense is running in here. So the configuration of this server, of this router. Okay. And then we can try to expand the menu by using these 3 bar. We have system. We can use the PFSN for, I want to use the HTTPS, so I'm going to use the certificate manager, or I'm going to use PFSN as high availability synchronization, and then I want to install something to enhance the application of PFSN. For example, I want to install the IDS, Intrusion Detection System, by using Snort. Then we can use the package manager. And then routing. This is the routing. Let's say that the gateway is at 1.1. This is actually my gateway, the gateway of this home LAN. My home dari rumah saya itu menggunakan IP address ini sebagai gateway. Oke, kita coba dulu. Kita coba mengakses 192.168.1.1. Yang bilang adalah Firefox tidak dapat connect dengan 1.1. Apa yang menyebabkan dia nggak bisa? Kita coba. Atau mungkin kita coba server yang kita pakai sebelumnya. Kita coba nyalakan dulu servernya. Coba root cyber security. Ya. Kita coba ping 192.168.1.100. Di sini kita lihat bahwa kita ngeping saja ke PFSN itu nggak boleh dari luar. Jadi ngeping dari luar ke sisi WAN-nya PFSN itu tidak boleh. Jadi secara default dia dimatikan. Tapi kalau misalnya mau ngeping dari PFSN-nya sendiri, coba kita lihat di sini ada menu 7 ping host 7. Kita diminta berapa IP address ya? 192.168.1.101. Maka dia akan bilang berhasil saya ngeping. Tapi kalau dari server ngeping ke pfSense tidak diizinkan. Karena memang secara firewall dia ditutup. Nah, sekarang kita coba untuk bermain di firewall-nya dulu. Lewat web konfiguratornya. Firewall. Di sini ada untuk NAT juga, ada rules-nya, ada schedule, dan juga ada traffic shaper-nya, ada virtual IP. Nah, kita coba untuk kita coba untuk firewall dulu. Ini firewall alias untuk membuat penamaan. Misalnya saya kan nggak mau kan kalau cuma misalnya mahasiswa adalah IP yang penting subnetnya sekian, tapi saya pingin spesifik. Misalnya IP ini itu adalah punya si A, IP itu dia punya si B. Tapi kita nggak pakai di sini. Kita coba lagi firewall, NAT dan rules. Nah, kita lihat di sini untuk yang one, rule-nya adalah ya enggak boleh. Di sini bilang tidak ada rules yang didefinisikan untuk interface one ini. Semua incoming connection, semua koneksi dari luar ke interface ini dia akan di blok sampai sebuah pass rule, allow rule itu ditambahkan. Jadi kita bisa nanti menambahkan misalnya ini. Interface-nya adalah one, address family IP versi 4, protokolnya TCP, dan source-nya boleh apapun, destination-nya adalah boleh apapun, sepanjang dia menggunakan portnya ini saja. Jadi kalau kita tambahkan ini, maka apapun, dari manapun, mau kemanapun, yang ditujukan ke interface one, dia akan di allow. Seperti ini. Jadi portnya ini, destination ini, terus port ini, source-nya ini, source-nya ini, portnya ini, destination dan portnya ini, gateway-nya ini, maka dia di allow karena dia dicek contohnya. Oke. Di sini kita masih belum bisa. Oh, maaf. Belum di-apply changes-nya. Garis besar 2 ke atas. Oke, kita diubah. Kita coba sekarang. Masih belum bisa. Coba lagi. Oh, kan ini. Tapi kalau dari LAN-nya, dia boleh. Kita coba sekarang. Dari LAN, bisa nggak ya kita ngeping ping 192.168.56.113. Yep, bisa. Apakah dari klien bisa mengeping ke WAN-nya? Saya bilang tidak bisa, karena memang routingnya belum kita konfigurasi. Apalagi kalau kita mau ngeping ke server. Sekarang kita coba untuk kita coba bikin baru lagi aja. Actionnya adalah pas. Interface-nya one. Tapi terekam adalah IP versi 4. Protokolnya kita coba yang ICMP. ICMP-nya adalah any, source any, destination any. Ya, save. Apply changes. Sekarang kita sudah punya IP versi 4 ICMP sekarang. Kita lihat. Masih belum bisa. Masih ada yang kita gambar lagi ya. Pass 1 versi 4 CMP CMP-nya ini source-nya ini, destination-nya adalah ini. Oke. Belum bisa juga ya. Coba aja. Add lagi. One, sempat. Protokolnya ini saja. Ini. Oke, kayaknya kita skip dulu untuk yang firewall. Saya nggak tahu ini kok konfigurasinya saya lupa mungkin. Oke, kita ekspor dulu aja. Nah, selain firewall, kita juga bisa misalnya service. Kita bisa mengaktifkan DHCP. Jadi nanti pfSense kita bisa memberikan IP address. Kemudian dia juga bisa membuat bekerja sebagai NTP server, Network Time Protocol. Jadi dia akan memberikan data waktu sekarang jam berapa. Kemudian dia juga bisa memberikan SNMP. SNMP adalah protokol untuk kita bisa mengambil data-data MIB. MIB itu Management Information Block. Kita bisa nanya sudah berapa paket yang lewat. So by using SNMP, we can ask to specific agent how many packets arrive at you, or how many packets have you sent up till now. That's the purpose of SNMP. Nah, SNMP ini nanti fungsi adalah untuk membuat grafik dari trafiknya. Okay. Kemudian di sini juga ada VPN. Dan untuk VPN-nya dia ada yang IPsec, ada layer 2 tunneling protocol, dan ada OpenVPN. Kemudian juga ada status untuk mengecek, membuat captive portal. Kemudian ada dashboardnya juga. Dan juga melihat misalnya sudah berapa IP address yang kita kasih pinjam, kita list. Kemudian DNS-nya seperti apa. Dan juga settingan gateway dan juga interface. Dan misalnya untuk yang package manager, kita bisa menginstal package-package tambahan. Oh. Oke, Oke. Ini agak susah berarti. Oke, kendalanya adalah virtual machine untuk Ubuntu-nya itu menggunakan subnet 56. Tapi pada saat dia request ke gateway rumah saya 1.1, dia enggak tahu server gateway itu enggak tahu itu 56 sekian itu subnet dari mana ya gitu. Kalau saya mau kontak itu lewat mana saya kontaknya gitu. Itu menyebabkan mengapa tadi ping aja juga dia gagal. Oke, bisa dibaca resolusi dulu untuk yang package-nya agar bisa kelihatan. Nanti kita minggu depan kita akan coba untuk menggunakan yang Snort. So next we're going to discuss about how to use the Snort and also firewall. I'm not sure why firewall is failing us today. And also the web server. Okay, so today we're going to discuss about only the basic of pfSense. It's basically just a combination between firewall, router, and then VPN, proxy, etc. Put it in a box, in one box, and we call it pfSense. Okay, I think that's all for today. Any question? If not, then I'm going to create the quiz for today. It's just a simple quiz, just for your attendance. And also remember, this is also will be counted towards your final score because the daily quizzes will be counted up to at 20% of your final score. Okay, I think that's it for today. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you next week then.
Thank you, sir.